you took us really back into your story.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can imagine right away.
Yes. Everything shaped me to become a person that is, I would say well-rounded. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's useful to be a leader and having that kind of scope of mind.
He's about that independent mindset, that global mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset, and that innovative mindset that the UK education helps to shape for international students, including those coming from Indonesia.
I felt that moral responsibility to come back to Indonesia and to utilize, make the most of everything that I learned and really use that to build my country.
Well, this is why we do what we do at the British Council. So this is why I wake up every morning feeling motivated coming to work, because we are making a difference, So this is about the transformative power of education, of bringing our people together.
Hi, welcome to EDUTALK Podcast CNN Indonesia, the show where we dive into inspiring stories and valuable insights to help you navigate your journey in education and beyond. I'm Ronnie Satria. In this episode, we are exploring the transformative power of studying in the UK and then how global exposure can open doors to incredible opportunities and shape the leaders of tomorrow. We have already here the leader now as an example to help us unpack this. I'm honored to introduce you to our two distinguished guests. First, we have Mbak Dyah Roro SD Widya Putri, Deputy Minister of Trade of the Republic of Indonesia. Mbak Roro, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, she will talk about her experience, her journey, how the UK education already shaped you as a leader as today.
Yes, I'm really excited to share as well.
And then also joining us with Mr. Summer Xia, the Country Director of the British Council Indonesia. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Ronnie. It's great to join this discussion with you and Ibu Roro, because, studying UK is one of the things that we promote at the British Council and something I feel passionate about personally. So looking forward to the conversation.
All right. You will be talking later about the, including scholarship programs and also opportunities for Indonesian students later.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. I'm interested to start with Mbak Roro.
Okay.
Mbak Roro, so many countries, have a very great education.
Yeah.
But why UK?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I get that question a lot. One of the reasons at the time, during my high school years, I studied in Indonesia. And at the time, I took the IB program. So in taking the IB program, it kind of distinguishes where likely you'd be doing your further education. So this opens the doors to either studying in the UK, in Europe, in Australia perhaps, or even in the States. It's still possible to study in the US. And at the time, I was kind of scouting for, the different universities, and I had my attention drawn into Manchester University.
Wow. That's your undergraduate, right?
Yes, so I did my undergraduate at Manchester, and then I did my postgraduate at Imperial College London.
Wow.
And another kind of reason was because, of course, learning from our parents, right, from their experiences and so forth. So my dad used to study at Cranfield University, and again, that was in the UK. At the time, I was still 1 year old, and so he brought the whole family to the UK to live there as well. And he worked in an oil and gas company as well, and so we lived in London at some point. So I felt like, in a way, UK was kind of like a second home. I was quite familiar with the environment and so forth, and that was kind of the driving force of going to study there. But aside from that, also the programs that I was able to see, which I felt was quite relevant to what I wanted to pursue in terms of my career.
Okay.
And I was always passionate about the social sciences and really just a means of creating a sustainable future. And I saw, for example, at Manchester, the course that I took was in economics and sociology.
Okay.
And then at Imperial, I studied environmental technology at the Center of Environmental Policy. And so these three disciplines combined is the very essence of that, creating that sustainable future, how we can push forward growth, economic growth, that is also taking into account the social aspect and also the environmental aspect. And so I felt like it was just meant to be to study in the UK.
When you mentioned that, you took us really back into your story.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can imagine right away. Yes. It's like,
Yeah.
that would also motivate many others that watch us today. And
I hope
for Mr. Summer, let's move to Mr. Summer. Your perspective, that's from Dyah Roro already mentioned her story, and then what makes UK a unique destination actually for studying?
Well, really good question, Ronnie, and I think I would just add to what Dyah Roro has mentioned. So apart from, the brand of the UK, so lots of people have heard about the UK, a country of innovation, a country of great history, a country of great cultural heritage.
A country of Harry Potter.
Yeah, a country of football, something that everybody loves in Indonesia. But in addition to that, it is the academic excellence.
Right.
So as you know, 4 of the world's top 10 universities are in the UK, including Imperial, where
165 universities.
Yeah, so lots of choices, and so we do bring that academic excellence, whatever program, whatever course you want to study, whatever dream you want to pursue, we make sure that you study from the best lecturers in the world. And of course, it's that international experience as well, as Dyah Roro referred to as well. So this is where you have lots of international students. So even from your study, you are able to build a global network, which will be really crucial for later on when you want to expand your connections and then seek collaboration. And also, it is about shaping that critical thinking, independent learning, sort of challenge the status quo. I think that's what UK education is also known for. So it's not just about, learning from the books, but actually forming your own opinion, really think about how do you put your ideas forward and how do you win an argument, so lots of debates, and that sort of critical thinking, that, innovative thinking is really important for today's world. And of course, it's the home of, English language. So, to be able to command the most spoken language in the world, to be able to connect with people from all over the world, and for Indonesian students, dare I say, to share the Indonesian success stories with the rest of the world. That is really important. And finally, I just want to highlight the closer link to industry the UK higher education provides. So, students can stay on to work in the UK for 2 or 3 years, the graduate route. So that is to make sure students have a head start before they go into employment by having that real experience from global companies based in the UK.
Their durations also matters, right?
Yeah.
For the, having education in the UK is not really that long enough, I mean, like in 3 years for undergraduate and 1 year.
I mean, that's another really good point.
That's a
it's
plus.
Good value for money. Only 3 years for bachelor's degree and 1 year for master's degree. So you can get your degrees a lot quicker compared to many other countries.
And Dyah Roro has already been, a deputy
one of the
minister,
reasons
there you go.
Faster, right?
Yeah.
More productive, a good use of your time.
I mean, like, you're in the age right now, like
Yeah.
in your age right now, it's already becoming as a leader. Talking about leader.
Okay.
Now, I have a question. What education, UK education is already, what elements that makes already shaped you to have like a leadership skill to be you are today?
Yeah, I think the experience in itself was really immense, right? It was very incredible. I think being able to open ourselves to meet with different people coming from different backgrounds and using that opportunity to network, to understand more beyond your own culture, your own belief systems, and being able to be exposed to that on a daily basis is, I think, very valuable. And secondly, also the methods of learning, right? You mentioned about the independent learning aspect, which was also a big component to our study, right? we
How
would be
was that?
attending.
I mean, like,
so
independent.
we'd be attending lectures,
Mhm.
and this is usually a one-way communication, right?
Okay.
Unless we raise our hands to ask a question, and
Like
the
a seminar,
lecturer
so like
would-
something like
yes,
classes
so a big
usual.
seminar. And
Okay.
in Manchester, I remember because the class was really big, there
Oh.
were a lot of students, and so we received that one-way kind of learning experience outside of asking questions and so forth. But on the other hand, I think it also boils down to how proactive we are in utilizing our time and experience.
Yeah.
How we approach the lecturers on a more kind of independent basis, seeking for their time and asking for guidance in cases where we are not sure about the material that
Okay.
was conveyed during the seminars.
Do they support your time? I mean, like a particular
Yeah.
other time other than
Yeah.
the
They
classes?
do. I think the great thing about having that bond with your lecturers,
Oh,
right,
right.
is understanding that okay, they have a schedule, but then fitting into their schedule and having that time to discuss about some of the components of the lectures, for example. But aside from that, utilizing the library, right? I think the library is a great place. Not only to be with your friends, but of course to study, right? To have that moment to yourself, you and your notes, and being able to cross-check with your peers, and utilizing the facilities that UK universities were able to offer, I think was an incredible experience in itself. And being able to expose ourselves also with the different experiences outside of our studies.
Yeah.
So there are communities, there are societies that are for international students, for example, or societies for kind of individual-based countries. So there is a society for Indonesians. There is a society for Pakistanis, Bangladeshis. I remember at the time because I was very active in the arts as well.
All right.
So
you dance? You sing?
yeah, I like to sing.
Okay.
I still do. But not on a professional basis. don't test me. But that was a good
Later
experience
after
in
the
itself.
podcast, yeah?
Yeah. Maybe another session. But yeah, that in itself, I think everything shaped me to become a person that is, I would say well-rounded. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's useful to be a leader and having that kind of scope of mind to grow Indonesia forward.
So, Mr. Summer, is that the way how UK education, equip students to be a global leaders?
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree with what Dyah Roro has mentioned. I think the UK education is known for sort of really teaching the students how to learn. Not just passing on the knowledge, but actually you need to acquire the skills on how you can learn, how you can connect with others, focus on problem solving, focus on communication, focus on team working. So like the experience at the library, that is a teamwork, so you work on a project together, you are not on your own, you connect with your lecturers, you really, I think it requires people to be very proactive. You can't play a very passive role and then just wait there to be things to be handed to you. That won't work. It will force you to really go out of your comfort zone sometimes and then be proactive, ask lots of questions, go to talk to your lecturer, reach out to your classmates, form your study group, and then work on projects together. And then also thinking about that employability, how do you be proactive in finding internship opportunities, talking to the career counselors at the university to get the best advice on how you can land your first job in the UK in the 2 or 3 years that you are allowed to work in the UK, to gain that international work experience. So all of that really requires students to be very adaptable, to embrace the international environment and culture,
pushing to the boundaries.
Absolutely. And then to work really hard and play hard as well. So the things outside of the classroom.
I can imagine when you mentioned that. So I want to ask Mbak Roro, you have encountered challenges for sure. Because I mean, like adaptability really needs something. Like serious things that you have to do. Tell us about the challenges that you encountered and how you managed to solve that.
I think one of the biggest challenges for me on a personal level is starting university at a very young age. So I was 17 years old when I finished my high school. And that was when I had to travel to the UK and move so far away from my family. I think being, this girl who was very used to having their, her family 24/7 around her, and then losing that attachment, having to travel miles and miles away to a completely different country. Even though it didn't feel that foreign because I've lived there before.
Okay.
But still having that sense of independency.
Yeah.
And having to really take care of our lives, dealing with the small things.
Yeah.
Small things like, for example, doing your own dishes, your laundry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, these little chores, but also being able to understand how to get from one place to the next, right? Using the buses, you know, going by bus, going by train, even walking. I used to prefer walking. I love to walk.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, it allows you to exercise, and you know the roads allow you to be able to, right, on long distances. And I think that in itself is quite. It was a good experience all in all. But I think again that was a challenge. I think being able to adapt to that kind of lifestyle within the first few months.
Yeah.
But luckily, when I lived in Manchester, maybe because I was still considered underage, so they made me live in it was called the St. Gabriel's Hall. I remember perfectly, in Rusholme, in the Curry Mile, around the Curry Mile in Manchester, and that accommodation was for all women.
Right.
Basically.
Wow.
So they offered for the in-campus accommodation, the one that they offered me was that one. So I didn't really have a choice, but it turned out to be a really great experience because I also met with people going through similar experiences, coming from a variety of different countries, but we were all in the same boat, so it made me feel less alone, you know, and going through those challenges became a lot easier.
Okay. Is that the way also? Now, that's a question come back to you, Mr. Summer. The way UK's global exposure benefit Indonesian students, particularly when they return home?
Absolutely. I think it is about that independent mindset, that global mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset, and that innovative mindset that the UK education helps to shape for international students, including those coming from Indonesia. Yes, there are going to be challenges, but actually having gone through that experience with the support from the university, from your peers, from your classmates, then really shape people's values and shape people's capability. You know, once you have gone through that, there's nothing you can't do. So I think it's really about living through that experience, but also tapping into the support, the support from the British Council, for example. Before Indonesian students go to the UK, we have a lot of information to prepare the students. We even have pre-departure briefings, we have a Study UK website to tell you about living and working in the UK. And then once you are in the UK, so the support provided by UK universities is second to none. So as Roro mentioned, UK universities really go out of their way to make sure international students are well looked after and well welcomed, so the UK remains welcoming to all international students because we see the economic and social contribution international students make to the UK society. And of course, your classmates, either from the UK or from other countries in the world, they are the best buddies, they are friends you will make for the rest of your life. And even alumni previously, but Roro mentioned the communities you built, for example, with the other Indonesian students. You help each other. Even now, what we really encourage is that you connect with Indonesian students who have studied in the UK. They have lots and tips and to share with students before they go, and that's another way to make sure you are ready to adapt and to embrace this new culture, new environment, and to make the most for you.
Okay, connection, networking, that's, the keywords that I grasped from your explanation. You're still having a connection with your peers before?
Yeah, of course. Just going back into the point that was made earlier, I think getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is one of the biggest lessons that I learned, and I always like to kind of share that to people.
I'm
and that's the way.
Actually, when you mentioned
and that's the only way you can grow as an individual. If you're always on your comfort zone, you are never exploring something that is beyond, that can get you to a different destination, which is better for your kind of life, right? So that was kind of something that I learned along the way. And also going back into the point where how did the campus help? The campus really helped facilitate. So they helped they showed us where things were, where the library was, where the lecture theaters were, and because the campuses are usually very large, very big, there were campus tours happening before classes started, and so we were able to understand how do I get from my dorm to the classes, and then perhaps to the library, and then maybe to the prayer room, having that kind of balance and being able to understand it, even where the gym was, where the court was, things like that. That really helped. But aside from that, in terms of how we kept in touch with the Indonesian community specifically. So when I studied at Imperial College, going back to, because I was quite passionate about the, arts as well, and we use that as a form of soft diplomacy, right? How we can introduce the Indonesian culture to the international students and the international community.
Was it with PPIs?
It was with PPI, yes. PPI. So there is a community there, right? Indonesian talented individuals coming from a range of different universities, all gathering in the UK for the mere purpose of striving for their education, getting that educational experience, but also having that added kind of relevance in trying to boost the Indonesian culture. Right? And so that in itself was very engaging. But aside from that, we were quite active in, hosting seminars. We'd get speakers coming from Indonesia, who are in government, for example, or in parliaments, and having that engagement with them is also very helpful, because that way we understand, or have a better understanding of where our career can take us, what our potential careers may look like. Because to be frank, at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to be. It was never kind of on my wish list, member of parliament, vice minister of trade. Like, this was never kind of, on my wish list. But I always wanted to be an individual in which is able to gather as much as experiences as I could, abroad through the education, and be of use to my country in the best way possible. At the time, I didn't know how, but being exposed to these people, and then again being able to keep that network even in Indonesia, and still being able to talk to them and keep in touch, host events,
exchange ideas,
and this network in itself can be the basis of I think growth in general of Indonesia, right? Because there's so much talent, and it's a matter of how we can maximize on the talent, the local talent that we have in Indonesia, based on that experience abroad. I think that is very meaningful.
Wow. So many experience are provided and then being equipped by UK education, but how the British Council support it? You have like many scholarships. Tell us.
Well,
interesting.
So
I mean, the audience will,
everyone wants to get scholarship. This is the one I've been waiting for.
Come on, apply this year.
But maybe before I come to the scholarship, which I know is the one topic that everybody is interested in, I just want to elaborate on the sort of full support the British Council provides to anyone who wants to study in the UK. So we have a website called Study UK. So people Google Study UK British Council, they can get all sorts of information about how do you select your course, how do you find a university, where do you want to live, how do you apply for a visa, what it's like to live and work, study in the UK. So that's really important information. We also provide sort of briefing sessions, like we go to some of the education fairs and do a presentation on Study UK. So to myself, my colleagues will be there just to tell people and interact with them directly and answer their questions about Study UK.
Representative from the UK coming.
So lots of the time UK university representatives will be there. So that's the best way to get first-hand information for students and parents. And then of course we administer IELTS. So at the British Council, which is a requirement for studying in the UK. So at our office, Jalan Senopati, Office 8, you can take IELTS with us every day of the week and throughout the year. And then we also have more than 17 testing centers across the country. So wherever you are in Indonesia, you don't necessarily have to come to Jakarta, but you can take IELTS at a center that's closer to you. And then the other thing I want to highlight is that sometimes people don't get their a score because they don't know how to take the test. So at these testing centers, we're able to give people a familiarization test, a mock test, so they know the format, they know how to click the mouse and then where to type, so that will increase their chance of securing their required score. And then, of course, when students need to think about their funding, there are scholarships. So from the UK government, there's the Chevening Scholarship, which is a full scholarship. I think the best scholarship in my view. So that supports any students with any background who want to study any subjects in the UK. At the British Council, we also have our Women in STEM scholarships. So this is particularly for young women from Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, to study STEM subjects in the UK at master's level, recognizing there's a gap of women in STEM. So that's why we want to support women in particular. So that's also a full scholarship that people can apply for. And there's also the Great Scholarship the British Council has, which is a partial scholarship. We work with 13 UK universities, and then so this is a different way to widen the reach to different kind of students who may not need a full scholarship, but a partial scholarship to enable them to study in the UK. And of course, I must highlight the LPDP scholarship from the Indonesian government, because I think that's a fantastic investment from the Indonesian government for the human capital development. So I applaud the great vision set by the Indonesian government with the LPDP, and we certainly hope that more and more Indonesian students would come to the UK, like Mbak Roro, utilizing the LPDP scholarships. And then one more thing I want to add in terms of the British Council support is also after your study, when you come back to Indonesia, we want to connect you as our UK alumni. So we actually have launched the world's largest database of UK alumni. So it's a portal called Alumni UK British Council. So people Google and sign up, then you can connect with alumni in Indonesia and from the rest of the world. And this is where we would publish latest information about the things that we can do to help alumni with their career progression, to network, and also to tap into employment opportunities from the businesses that we have connection with. So that's also to strengthen the community after you study, but also to help inspire many more students from Indonesia and the rest of the world to follow in the footsteps like Mbak Roro, to study in the UK and benefit from the world-class education the UK offers.
Mbak Roro, tell us about LPDP then. You were one of the awardee at the time.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm very grateful, I think. I think a lot of people also questioned, like, why did you go through the LPDP process? One of the things that a lot of people don't know, and I think it's really important for me to convey, is that I remember when I wanted to pursue my postgraduate degree, I had a conversation with my parents. They gave me kind of a requirement. You have to be accepted in one of the top universities.
Imperial is like in top 5, right?
Yeah, top 5, yeah. And then they would consider of, funding the education. And that point in my life, I remember I felt a bit challenged, right? A challenge not in a negative way, more of a positive way, to see where my capabilities lie. And so that urged me to want to apply for the LPDP scholarship so I can be more independent financially. Because when we look at me as an individual, I didn't have the money, right? and not in the the sense of the family, right? So that was one thing. And secondly, I felt challenged to apply to the best universities, and one of them was Imperial. And I'm very grateful that turns out Imperial was an interesting process, because they also had an interview session. So after they it's quite tough. I remember there were 3 interviewers as well at the time to get to know us more and to understand where our what our goals were, what we wanted to get out of the course, but also testing about our background knowledge, right?
So you got also interviewed again,
and also with LPDP.
Oh my God.
So it was double interview. But I don't regret it at all, because in that sense, and what was interesting about Imperial, I have to share, is that the course that I took was designed for people coming from different backgrounds. So in order for us to find solutions to a global problem like climate change, or how we can create that sustainable future, they have to open the doors to the many different disciplines, because all the different disciplines and sectors have a role to play in creating that change. And so I remember my colleagues had a different backgrounds, even in the space of medicine. Some of them were doctors, and then in engineering and social science and business and so forth. So that in itself was really incredible to have that network, right? But yeah, so Imperial turns out that was kind of the path for me, and LPDP really helped me, get the most out of my educational experience.
Okay.
I'm very grateful because they were able to fund the living expenses, but also the tuition fee, even the books that we had to buy, they covered, and so that was incredible. So at least as a student, we were able to go to another country without having to think about the financial aspect and focus thoroughly on the education aspect. And lastly, if I can touch on also, during my time at Imperial, we had the chance to meet Pak Jokowi actually. So Pak Jokowi, during his second term of his presidency, he came to the UK and he invited some LPDP awardees during that year to meet him at the Indonesian embassy. And so we had that session also with Pak Jokowi and a couple of very prominent kind of leaders at the time, Indonesian leaders, and that exposure I thought was very, very meaningful.
I'm still with you, Mbak Roro. What value that you bring back to the home country, particularly in your position right now as a deputy minister?
Yeah, I think, so I felt kind of, I had this calling to want to go back to Indonesia. Funnily enough, I actually went through kind of like this very rewarding experience. The Mayor of London had this competition of how we can create a low carbon economy, and me and my friend we participated. We didn't win, but it was a good experience, and that opened the doors for me to be able to it opened the doors to my career potential, right? So we had a session with different kind of companies, financial institutions also, and so I was looking into pursuing a career in the UK at the time. But because of the LPDP scholarship, I felt that moral responsibility to come back to Indonesia and to utilize, make the most of everything that I learned and really use that to build my country. And so that was kind of the biggest calling that I had to return. And I didn't start straight away to become the vice minister, right?
All right,
So me and my brother was also an LPDP alumni. But at the time we formed an institution called the Indonesian Energy Environmental Institute. We worked alongside the government on conducting several programs, all with the hopes of creating that sustainable future. And then not long after, there was this political momentum to take part in the process of becoming a parliamentarian. So I campaigned, I remember in 2018, and that in itself was an incredible experience, and I felt I could 100% utilize that educational experience abroad in the UK, that global experience, but also being able to adapt that locally in the context of growing the country. And luckily I was elected by the people, right? Also at
you really make a contribution in democracy, like what you have earned in the UK. Something.
Right, so the UK was kind of, formed a basis for me to be able to carry on forward. And then now Pak Prabowo Subianto and Pak Gibran Raka Buming Raka gave that trust for me to be able to help them in this government and contribute even more. And because the context is trade, so understanding how we can improve our bilateral relations between Indonesia and also like countries of the UK going forward, how we can boost our trade. I think in the space of education is also very relevant. I know that King's College London opened a campus in Malang in the Kawasan Ekonomi Khusus, so there's a big campus there, and that plays a role in, again, increasing the level and the quality of our human capital, which is what the President, Pak Prabowo, is very focused on right now. And being a part of the government, I think that's something that we not only applaud, but we support 100% as well.
When we talk about the contributions that what Mbak Roro has already proven to us, how do UK-Indonesia educational partnerships so far since 1948, right?
Correct.
Wow.
I mean,
We're
like,
entering our 77th year
Wow.
in Indonesia.
That's incredible.
I mean, like still ongoing until now, and in
Yeah.
the future. How does this partnership drive innovation and then make global leaders like what Roro has already proved to us?
Well, this is why we do what we do at the British Council. So this is why I wake up every morning feeling motivated coming to work, because we are making a difference. So this is about the transformative power of education, of bringing our people together, sharing our culture, solving global challenges together. Because in today's world, all the global challenges cannot be solved by a single individual or a single country. We have to collaborate, and that's what UK education brings to our students. That international mindset, that collaborative ways of working, that independent learning, and also the entrepreneurship, and also how do you give back to society and serve your community, in your experience. I think that's what we want to see the international students, do when they graduate from the UK. Take that global insights and academic learning with them and apply that in their community, in their country, maintain the global network they have established when they were in the UK, introduce those cutting-edge technology and industrial experience they gained from working and interning in the UK, so that they could drive positive changes for their community, for their countries. From the British Council, what we want to do is create more opportunities through the information we provide on Studi UK, through the scholarships we provide, such as GRADE, Women in STEM, or the UK government's Achievement Scholarships, but also through institutional partnerships we build between UK universities and Indonesian students, Indonesian universities. So another university, for example, that has just opened up a campus in Indonesia is Lancaster.
Really?
So they opened up a campus in Bandung, in West Java. So there's also a Lancaster Deakin University campus in Bandung.
That's so cool.
It is really cool. So this is what we refer to as transnational education, which means that students can benefit from UK education even in their home country. So of course we know that lots of students would want to go to the UK for that authentic experience of living there, working there, embracing the culture, doing, go to the Harry Potter studio, go to the Glastonbury Music Festival, or go to see one of the football matches as part of the Premier League. But for those who, for whatever reason, can't go, then there are also those transnational education offers in country right here that people can tap into. So what we want to offer is different options for the different students target audience in this country. But ultimately, the goal is to prepare global-minded, well-rounded, independent, entrepreneurial, and very driven global citizens who will be the change makers for the future.
Okay, my final questions are, now we have finally we're wrapping up right now. What advice that you will both of you will give to our audience, probably they want to prepare themselves for scholarships, prepare themselves for studying it to the UK, because of your already mentioned the impact, the values that you've already shaped you until you can do some great contribution to the country. What advice that you would give, Mr. Summer?
Yeah, sure. Maybe three things very simply.
All right.
One is be prepared. Do your research. There's lots of information out there from the British Council, from the British Embassy, from LPDP. Do your research. Make up your mind on what course you want to study, where you want to study in the UK. Pick something that will be good for you, that you're going to be passionate about, not just something that everyone else wants to do. It's really about you, about your future. The second thing is independent. You need to be ready for the challenge. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Go out of your comfortable zone. So really think about how you can embrace this new experience. Try something for once, in your life, and then really think about how you, as a global citizen, as a new individual in a new environment can tap into all the opportunities. And third thing is really that about that adaptability. How can you be adaptable to the new environment, embrace the new cultures, connect with your peers and other international students, work with international companies, so that you have all of that experience with you to prepare you to either come back to Indonesia or work elsewhere, so that you have that international mindset to prepare you for any challenges in the future.
Okay, Mbak Roro, what can you say to the audience that you want to have, experience like you're becoming like next, Mbak Roro?
Langsung banyak. So I think the one thing for everybody watching here, of course, is to be open-minded. Be open-minded to the opportunities that lie ahead that may come from a country outside of Indonesia. I think studying abroad doesn't mean that you don't love your country, but it means that you want to upgrade yourself to be able to serve your country even better.
All right.
And that open-mindedness, I think, is very important. And also starting with intention. What is your intention to study? What is your purpose? And asking yourself why. Starting with why. There's a book by Simon Sinek, and it's a really good one. Always kind of questioning the why aspect, because that drives you to your purpose, right? But outside of that, how you yourselves can optimize on your opportunity. Being abroad is something that not a lot of people have that advantage. But once you're abroad, once you are in a different country and getting that really good educational system experience, how can you make the most of that? Because your experience depends on you. Are you going to be somebody who is open to the opportunities, or are you going to close yourself off and just not getting that full experience, right? So it depends on you. It depends on your choices. And I think lastly, it's really important for you to be open to that possibility. And I think a slight request, if possible, because I know there is a big audience of Indonesians who may still be kind of struggling with their English and so forth. So if there's a subtitle which can help the Indonesian audience understand, because we have a really good intention to kind of not only educate but share experiences, and we really want the Indonesian society to have the same experience. And so to get all the advantages that comes from studying in the UK, for example.
Wow.
And then just to add to the English element, that at the last point, that there's a lot we do at the British Council to help as well. So we have free learning English resources online people could tap into. We also have our teaching center in Jakarta, where individuals or groups could take English lessons from us. So
really
this
cool.
is a global language, so we want to do what we can to help Indonesians to be able to use this as a tool to communicate better, and then, as I said earlier, to share that Indonesian success stories with the rest of the world.
Yes.
Well, I think that's all for our discussion today. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Summer.
Thank you.
Thank you for such a rich
us.
conversation, and hopefully that will be helpful for sure for our audience.
I hope so
Everyone
too.
is inspired.
Here's the role model.
And also, I really hope that one day, it's inspire many, including me.
Including you.
Yes,
right.
So
Maybe he's gonna go to the UK and
I
study
think
more.
Amen. All right. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.